United Church of Christ. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We continue today our worship series called Who Are You? And we're today talking about embodying Beatitude living. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry. I'll tell you in just a little while. So,
the first reading is from Micah chapter 6. Hear what the Holy One says. Rise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, the controversy of the Holy One, and you enduring foundations of the earth. For the Holy One has a controversy with the Holy One's people, and will contend with Israel. O my people, what have I done to you? In what have I wearied you? Answer me, for I brought you up from the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of slavery. And I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now what King Balak of Moab devised, what Balaam, son of Beor, answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the saving acts of the Holy One. With what shall I come before the Holy One and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before the Holy One with burnt offerings and with calves a year old? Will the Holy One be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? God has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Holy One require of you, but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? And from Matthew chapter 5. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And from this time and place, Barbara Brown Taylor, in An Altar in the World, A Geography of Faith. To make bread or love, to dig in the earth, to feed an animal or cook for a stranger. These activities require no extensive commentary, no lucid theology. All they require is someone willing to bend, reach, chop, stir. Most of these tasks are so full of pleasure that there is no need to complicate things by calling them holy. And yet, these are the same activities that change lives, sometimes all at once, and sometimes more slowly, the way dripping water changes stone. In a world where faith is often construed as a way of thinking, bodily practices remind the willing that faith is a way of life. For the wisdom contained in these holy words, we give thanks.
Have compassion for everyone you meet. even if they don't want it. What seems conceit, bad manners, or cynicism is always a sign of things no ears have heard, no eyes have seen. You don't know what wars are going on down where the spirit meets the bone. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. God has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Holy One require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. We love that verse. Many of us, if I had to guess, know it by heart. It's a go-to piece, UCC verse. It incorporates our vision and mission in a nutshell. And yet, I wonder how many of us are familiar with the verses that come before it, the ones just read. I'd like to start there this morning. God lifts up the controversy God has with God's people in what appears to be a mock courtroom setting. The indictment the people face is turning their backs on people in their community who are struggling. Turning their backs, and in some cases, stepping on the people who are struggling when they have been beaten down. God cries out, "What have I done to you?" and wonders why they act so poorly, so unjustly to people who are vulnerable. God then reminds the people that they have not made it on their own. They have not pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps. Oh no. And then God gives a few examples. It's the evidence, isn't it? God liberated them from Egypt and from slavery. God stopped misguided actions to destroy Israel by the king of Moab. And God ensured the safe crossing of the Jordan River for Joshua and the people of Israel. The people, God says, have not made it on their own. Don't you remember? God demands, start acting right. That's my paraphrase. And the response of the people comes in the form of our sarcastic snapback. I can just see it. What do you want from us? Burnt offerings? Or perhaps you need more? What about 1,000 rams with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Is that enough, or is it still not enough for you, God? How about my firstborn? Will that do the trick? The fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Does that sound familiar? Not the words, perhaps, or even the suggestions that people give God to pay for their actions. No, I'm talking about the attitude. What more do I have to do to please so-and-so? You fill in the blank. Or, it's never enough what I do, what I give. She always wants more. Or, really, I have worked hard for what I have. Why shouldn't everyone else work hard too? Why am I always expected to share, to give my hard-earned stuff away? Have you ever experienced this attitude? I won't ask you to put your hands up, but a quick nod will do it through. The anger-filled, what do you want from us attitude? Oh, the flippant, sarcastic, over-the-top attitude that suggests not taking the situation seriously. Or perhaps it's an attitude rooted in fear and guilt that explodes as an outrageous retort. Or maybe it's all of them combined. Does any of it sound familiar? We know this response to the angry, flippant, fear and guilt-filled outbursts by the people of Israel. God has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Holy One require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. God requires a particular way of living, not burnt offerings or a particular worship style or tradition that oppresses or rules that marginalize. No, God requires kindness and acting for justice and a way of life, a way of being in the world where kindness and justice, God's justice, not human justice, create shalom. We hear something similar from Jesus as he teaches the disciples on the mountain. We call them the Beatitudes. He talks about thirsting for justice, having mercy, being peacemakers. Barbara Brown Taylor suggests we bake bread. We make bread or love or dig in the earth or feed an animal or cook for a stranger. These activities, she says, require no extensive commentary, no lucid theology. All they require is someone willing to bend, reach, chop, stir. It is not rocket science. It does not require a master's degree in theology. It is so simple. It is so very, very simple. What we are called to do, who we are called to be in the world. It begins for us with admitting we haven't done it all by ourselves. We haven't pulled ourselves up by our own bootstraps, an action that is actually impossible to achieve. You should try it if you've got some boots at home. People who do not have as much as we are not lazy or insignificant, and in fact, we might have stepped on them on our way to where we are right now, perhaps without even realizing it. It's also important, I think, to recognize that the societal and political systems and structures in which we operate are not, in fact, broken. They were built intentionally and systematically to elevate people who are white. Men who are white. I know I've shared this before, but it bears repeating. It's a little personal experience. It took me 3 years to be issued a green card. It involved a pleasant and thorough interview with my husband and myself. In the meantime, I was able to get a work permit so I could be employed for a fee. Now, before I go further, let me remind you that for someone coming to this country from beyond the southern border, it can take as long or longer than 15 years to obtain a green card, and a work permit is certainly not guaranteed, though paying the fee is. When someone noticed after 10 years that the number on my green card did not match the immigration number assigned to me, both my green card and my driver's license were taken. An inconvenience, to be sure, like I couldn't write a check. I was, however, allowed to continue to live and work right where I was. No detaining, no deportation, no questions, actually. That is not the experience of my siblings who come to this country from the South. Here's where I can imagine that "so what do you want from me" attitude might begin to grow. Because I'm just saying, dismantling systems and structures seems like a really daunting, maybe even impossible task, right? Just wait a minute. Do not lose hope quite yet. We can act, you know. We can do justice, organize to dismantle the systems and structures that beat people down and keep people out both figuratively and literally. We can't do it alone, but we can do it together. If a whole bunch of us gather together, we can love kindness. We can bake the bread, dig in the earth, feed an animal, or cook for a stranger. All this kind of kindness requires is someone willing to bend, reach, chop, or stir. We can do that. We can walk humbly. We can think critically about how we live our lives. Are we thirsting for justice? Having mercy? Are we being peacemakers? Still, it is hard, wearying work. How many times, just think about it for a second, how many times have you wanted to throw up your hands and give up? After all, we might be tempted to say, my life is actually okay. There's no threat to me or my family, and my actions don't do much anyway, right? The world is not getting any better. I feel like I am spinning my wheels. Look, we say, another young black man has been killed by police in Memphis. We keep adding names to our vigil list. Tyree Nichols was beaten so badly by the police. He died from his wounds. Say his name. Tyree Nichols. Some days it seems hopeless. Our attitude might well be, God, what do you want me to do? What more do you require of me? And will it even help? Some days it will seem hopeless. Some days we will want to pull the bed covers over our heads and close the world out. But did you notice that the Memphis DA's office has issued charges against the 5 police officers who beat Tyree Nichols? Never have we seen charges come down so quickly. It could have something to do with the color of those police officers' skin, though. I'm just going to say that. I'm still a cynic. But I'm going to tell you, there is a new DA in town. Many people knocked on many doors in Memphis to educate people about the DA's race last spring and encourage people to get out to vote. The result? A DA newly elected who is responsive and working hard for justice. It does not bring Tyree Nichols back to his family and friends, to be sure. It does provide a more just way forward and gives notice to others in Memphis and perhaps around this country who might make a mistake a badge for a free pass. It might even change some systems. What we do today, like drops on stone, can make a difference. The actions we take today, though they seem small and insignificant, and we might think too little, too late, well, they might grow into something powerful and world-changing. Do not lose hope. We cannot lose hope. When we are frustrated and fearful, feeling guilty and gut-wrenched, let us take a deep breath and then keep on. Keep on doing justice. Keep on loving kindness. Keep on walking humbly. Keep on bending, reaching, chopping, stirring. That is what God requires. Right now, I'd like you to take that purple star you picked up as you entered the sanctuary and think about, then write down on the back of it how you will, not how you have, how you will show that you love justice, kindness. How will you act? Take a moment to write that down. And at the end of service, I'll invite you to bring the star up and put it on the tree. I want to close with a poem and a song. The poem is written by Ted Loder. It's called Crazed into Holy Awareness. The song is written by Patty Griffin, and I'm going to thank Sarah Webster for lifting it to my attention a couple of weeks ago. It's called Up to the Mountain, and it is inspired by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Both speak to the impossible way forward for a better world. Both leave us with the hope to act anyway. First, the poem. Come, Lord Jesus, Confront me as a prophet. Disturb my indifference. Expose my practiced phoniness. Shatter my brittle certainties. Deflate my arrogant sophistries. And praise me into a holy awareness of my common humanity, and so of my bony, bloody need to love mercy, do justly, and walk humbly with you and with myself, trusting that whatever things it might be too late for, prayer is not one of them, nor chance, nor change, nor passion, nor laughter, nor starting yet again to risk a way to be together, nor a wild, far-sighted claim that this human stuff of yours is stronger still than fail or time, braced to share a kingdom and spirited for joy. And now, up to the mountain, where Jesus taught and God sits, where we walk humbly. I went up to a mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds, then I go leave this sacred place and go into the world of sacred place, let us remember how we might live into God's dream for the world. Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with God. Go in peace.